Everybody, do you remember way back in January when the Liberals introduced a new online first come first serve form to fill out for family reunification? It was to replace a lottery system, and we're going to get into all of that. But guess what? It failed, and now people have launched lawsuits. And this is the systemic destruction of our immigration system and borders. This is very concerning, and I know I say that a lot, but I feel like in absence of long strings of expletives, that's what I can say. This is really concerning. These are our laws, and doing nothing says, yeah, that's fine. If we don't kick these liberals out, you say, yeah, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with this. There's two stories today. This is a backgrounder. Then we're going to get to the story that was printed yesterday, and then the story that was printed 2 days ago, and then the story that was printed yesterday. But first, we're going to go back to January to see what a failure the first come first serve online form was for the Liberals. CTV News is reporting, quote, immigration sponsorship form appears online for less than 10 minutes. Hundreds of immigrants are expressing frustration after a form required for sponsoring their parents or grandparents for immigration to Canada was available online for less than 10 minutes. After scrapping the lottery system in place since 2016, Immigrations, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada said earlier this month that they would make a, quote, interest to sponsor parents and grandparents form available online, quote, for a limited time on a, quote, first-in basis on Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Potential applicants were told that the form, which is several pages long and requires uploading proof of immigration status, should take about 10 minutes to fill out. Raj, I'm not going to try his last name, says he tried to submit his form at about 5 minutes after noon Eastern Standard Time, but received a message on his laptop screen saying the process had already closed. I scroll down. Raj says that he came to Canada in 2009, had been trying to sponsor his mother for the past 6 years. Mr. Trudeau should look into this matter, he said. I'd like to go back to the system like when the Conservatives were in power, he added. As of Monday afternoon, more than 1,000 people had signed an online petition asking that the 29 process be redone. Yeah, I didn't get in. Let's do it again. Raz Tomza, an immigrant from Romania, who lives in Montreal, was among those disappointed. Quote, exactly when it turned from 11:59 to noon on my computer, ... I refreshed the page, Tomza said. And I'm just pointing these out, this ... Anything can be in this ... He could have said, sentences upon whatever. So, take with that. Just be aware of it, okay? Back to the article. At 12:06 or 12:07, I got a message that the application form is no longer available because they've received all the applications, he added. Yeah, so there was 20,000 and they filled up. Anyway, fast forward to May 30th, not yesterday, and CBC News is reporting, quote, federal government quietly offered a settlement to halt lawsuits over immigration program. The federal government made a secret settlement to quash 2 lawsuits that claimed its contentious online application process to reunite immigrant families was flawed and unfair, CBC News has learned. To resolve the group litigation, the government awarded at least 70 coveted spots to applicants, allowing them to sponsor their parents' or grandparents' immigration to Canada. Legal actions were launched in Toronto and Vancouver after the widely criticized online application process went ahead on January 28th, a process which left tens of thousands of people frustrated and furious because they couldn't access the form or fill it out fast enough. The process opened at noon and closed less than 9 minutes later. A flurry of angry complaints erupted. Some said the sprint to file applications worked against those who couldn't fill them out quickly, such as people with disabilities or literacy issues or those living in places with slow internet connections. CBC News learned of the settlement through a legal source who is not directly involved in the lawsuits. Lawyers who were involved in the settlement of the lawsuits, which included non-disclosure agreements, declined to provide any details to CBC. There are no public court records on the settlement. Immigration lawyer Mark Keyork said that she was unaware of the legal settlement and called it very unfair to those who didn't know about the lawsuits or couldn't afford to join them. I scroll down. A government official who was not authorized to speak publicly about the case said the government opted to settle the legal challenges because the number of applicants was relatively small, because it included plaintiffs with disabilities, and because a court proceeding would have suspended the entire set of applicants. Immigration lawyer Lauren Waldman, who said he was also unaware of the settlement, said the online application process was extremely problematic and opened up multiple grounds for legal challenges. Quote, obviously, what the government hope is that by settling it quickly and by keeping the matter secret, other people won't launch challenges as well, he said. So they're trying to keep a cap on the number of people who will benefit from the legal challenge. He said he expects that once people learn about the settlement, they'll seek similar concessions from Ottawa. When it's made public, it's basically an invitation to everybody else who didn't get a spot to commence an action and demand the same equal treatment, he said. Waldman said that the government ultimately must find a way to reform the program so people are selected fairly, not arbitrarily. Records from the federal court challenge filed in Toronto on February 12th by 13 applicants called the online registration process, quote, so deeply flawed that thousands of interested parties, including applicants, were denied a reasonable opportunity to sponsor their parents for immigration to Canada. I scroll down again. The Liberal government moved to a first-come, first-served online application system this year after scrapping a controversial lottery system for reuniting immigrant families. The lottery system was contentious, with critics claiming it essentially gambled with people's lives. Yeah, the lottery process had replaced another first-in system, which itself was unpopular because it led to a mad rush every January with people lining up overnight at the doors of processing centers or paying placeholders to stand in line and deliver applicants prepared by consultants or lawyers. Okay, so we've got an imperfect system because it's an imperfect system because you've got 100,000 people who want a spot and you've got 20,000 spots. That's the problem. And I'm not saying we should make it 100,000 spots, not by any stretch of the imagination. But I am saying that you can't incentivize people to do this by giving over 70 spots because it's relatively small and then expect that to stay quiet because now you've set precedent. Now you've said, this is fine. All you have to do is come here, fail on an application, and then launch a legal action and Canada will just give it to you. It's so concerning. And I mean, my goodness, I'm going to put this on a t-shirt or something. It's ridiculous. Okay, now's number 2. Here's the second one, printed a day later, May 31st. CBC News is reporting, quote, fear no more. Liberal government takes steps to help foreign workers, newcomers escape abuse. Interesting. The Liberal government is taking a series of steps to help migrant workers trapped in abusive workplace and newcomers to Canada who are victims of family violence. Immigration Minister Ahmed Hassan announced Friday that as of Tuesday, migrant workers with an employer-specific permit can apply for an open work permit so they can escape a work situation where there is violence, harassment, or other abuse. When an application is made for an open work permit on the grounds of abuse, the employer will also face a compliance inspection. More than 160 employers found in violation of labor standards and were subject to financial penalty or a ban on hiring foreign workers. Beginning July 26, newcomers who are victims of domestic violence can apply for a free temporary resident permit that will give them legal immigration status in Canada. That will include a work permit and healthcare coverage. In, quote, urgent situations of family violence, the government will expedite the process by allowing people to apply for permanent residence on humanitarian and compassionate grounds. Scroll down. The new permit process is open to foreign nationals who haven't yet landed permanent resident status and whose status is depending on their abusive spouse or partner. This fall, the government will also launch a 2-year pilot project. A refugee can sponsor an immediate family member who they had not previously declared in an effort to reunite families. In a news release announcing the initiatives, Hassan said that under existing rules, newcomers who failed to declare immediate family members when they first came to Canada were barred from sponsoring them. Yeah, there's probably a reason for that. Yep. So this is a very concerning program, again, because you incentivize people to take advantage of it and declare that they're being abused regardless of the reality of the situation. And I'm not saying that people who are being abused lie about it. I'm saying people who aren't will attempt to say that maybe they are. Maybe that classifies as abuse. Does that classify as abuse? Government of Canada, right? Maybe I do qualify. I'm just going to apply using that one. Why not? And right, you're incentivizing that behavior, and it's unfortunate because it's breaking our system. Here is Annalise M. Weiler, and sorry if I've got all that wrong. She's a research and advocacy for food justice, migrant justice, agroecology, not biology, sorry, and decent work. Okay, so this person is presumably in favor of this. I looked on Twitter to see who was talking about this because I think it's incentivizing this. I think it's a bad idea. And I found this, and this person has questions too. And she says, quote, I have a lot of questions about the Liberal government's plan to help migrant workers escape abusive work environments. For starters, even admitting that someone might need to escape points to the inherent vulnerability created by employer-tied permits. So she's saying the root of the problem is the way the migrant workers are allowed to work in Canada. It's not... This solves a problem that is created by the government, essentially. Why not solve the problem? And our government is really good at that. The problem is at the top. The problem is people not prosecuting or the government themselves stepping in, etc. There's a problem there, and they're trying to solve the problem with the real estate agents for money laundering, right? And the bankers. The problem is not the real estate agents and the bankers. They're dealing with a bad situation that they have been that has been allowed to grow up around them, and they have no recourse because the courts do nothing and can do nothing. So it's a government problem, and the government is failing. And here's back to Annalise Weiler, and she says, does wage theft count as abuse? Must workers remain with an abusive employer while applying? Are swap frameworks included? I've raised these and other questions about the initial proposal. No answers yet based on Hesson's recent announcement. And yet it's going into effect on Tuesday. Here's another one. Another issue is that in the current proposal, workers must remain with the abusive employer while filing the complaint. And the bar for what counts as abuse doesn't include employment standards violations, wage theft, dangerous work, right? Here's that tweet. She's responding to a Star article on the announcement. And here's a link to her or the government of Canada. It's gazette.gc.ca. So this is when Jody Wilson-Raybould was saying Gazette it, this is what she meant. And I was incorrect when I was reporting about that, but that's a different tangent altogether. This is interesting. Link is in the description. I'm not going to read this yet. I'm not going to read this at all. It's dense, but if you want to read it, go ahead. It's interesting and it all ties in. But man, again, these types of poorly thought out initiatives that have nice sound bites, but fundamentally encourage people to start saying, yes, this is my situation. Now give me the healthcare and the residency and all that other stuff. Do that. And then we'll figure out the violence later. Yeah, I'm definitely being abused. Give that to me now. Right? I mean, just terrible. These rules were in place for a reason. Our system has been destroyed systemically by the Liberals. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. This needs to stop. This needs to be fixed, and not fixed in Andrew Scheer saying, the number of Canadians will change every year because Canada needs people and we're going to have lots of people, and the Conservative Party is going to bring in the number that Canada needs and the number that needs Canada. Really. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and